If you're looking at the schedule, I moved stuff around.
Okay. Oh, you meant like my document. I thought you meant like my notes. And I was like, oh no. How do you feel about international tourism?
Was that completely random or I just missed the context probably? Alright, I know we don't have 15 people missing. I know we have a few, but not 15. All right, folks. So I feel like it's that time of the semester whereas there's this lull and we start to drag a little bit. And I think it's that time where it's long enough into the semester that we're tired, but we're not close enough to the end that we can feel it. So in a few weeks, it'll be madness and there'll be a million assignments and you'll be stressed, but you can see the end then. And we're not quite there where you can see the end. At least it finally got cooler, so I guess we have that to hang our heads on. So hang in there. It's a bit of a grind. Sometimes you just have to kind of grind your way through. Today, I did, in case some of you are looking at the outline, I did flip some stuff around. In part because we were a little bit ahead, in part because I'm not going to be here next week, and Kaylee was going to be here, but that got complicated. But anyway, I'll go over that. So anyway, I flipped some stuff around. So today we're going to talk mostly about visually presenting information. So this will be a bit lighter on your brain than we've been before, and maybe even have a little bit of fun with it at the end. But before we get to the lighter part, we're gonna practice a little bit, and then we'll get into content, and then we'll just kind of look ahead a bit. So turn it on. All right, so we're gonna listen to a few little like 3-minute audio clips about some research studies. As we listen to those, I want you to really to start with, you're probably only going to fill these first 3 columns. So what are the variables? What is it, a predictor variable or an outcome variable? If you can tell, what level is it measured at, or what level might it be measured at? Okay. Then we'll talk about how we might use that data to do analysis. We won't talk about what visual to use because we haven't done that yet. I flipped the order again. But so you're gonna keep track of what the variables are. Okay, is it predictor or outcome? And if you can tell, what level of measurement? Little 3 minutes, but it is only audio.
Here's a trend. Cities around the country have moved to increase the minimum wage for workers at restaurants. Now, in turn, those restaurants have responded by trying to find ways to cut costs or pass the bill on to customers. But there is another unexpected effect of raising the minimum wage. To explain, we are joined by NPR social science correspondent Shankar Vedantam. Good morning.
Good morning.
Sorry, the suspense is killing me. What is the unexpected side effect?
Well, the new research explores hygiene violations in the restaurant industry, specifically looking at Seattle, which has been in the vanguard of raising the minimum wage. So the minimum wage in Seattle went from about $8 an hour in 2010 to about $13 to $15 an hour this year. I was speaking to Srikant Devraj at Ball State University in Indiana, along with his co-authors Subir Chakrabarty and Pankaj Patel. Devraj analyzed the effects of the minimum wage increase on restaurant, health, and hygiene. Seattle's King County keeps detailed inspection records based on surprise visits from inspectors. Since different parts of King County raised the minimum wage at different times, the economists were able to track the trajectory of violations in Seattle as the minimum wage changed.
We find that a $1 increase in minimum wage resulted in a 6.4% increase in overall health violations and 15.3% increase in less severe violations as a result of the increases.
That's a pretty striking set of numbers there, Shankar. So what is the link that they found?
Well, Devraj and his colleagues think that when restaurants face higher costs, they can do one of two things. They can find ways to pass these costs on to consumers, but obviously diners don't like to see this. They might also scale back on services, cut back hours of workers, or add additional tasks to staff jobs. As a result, some service issues might start to crop up. Crucially, the researchers do not find increases in serious health violations that could get a restaurant shut down. In Seattle, these are termed red risk factors. The researchers instead find an increase in less serious violations. I asked Devraj to give me some examples of these so-called blue violations.
Protection from contamination, like things like insects, rodents, animals, employee cleanliness and hygiene, toilet facilities, and whether they were properly constructed, supplied, and cleaned. The garbage has been properly disposed of. So these are some of the examples of these blue risk factors.
Okay, let me catch up with you. What we're saying here is the research shows if workers get paid more to earn the same profit, businesses need to cut on something, and where they're cutting is around the edges on hygiene.
That seems to be what the research is suggesting. Now, we don't know what the long-term trends are. It could be that over 5 years, this is going to look very different as the effects of the minimum wage shake out. It could also be this is the effect of raising the minimum wage. And one implication is if cities are going to raise the minimum wage, one thing they might want to do is step up inspections of these more minor violations, because you can expect that businesses that face higher costs might sometimes seek to cut corners.
No, you could also expect that this might go the other way, that with better pay, morale would go up, people would take greater pride in where they work, and they would take better care of the facilities.
It certainly could work that way, and maybe it will work that way over the long term. It's also possible that that's happening simultaneous with other factors. So for example, if a restaurant pays you more but cuts your hours, is your morale going to go up or down?
Shankar Vedantam, he joins us regularly to talk about social science research, and he's also host of the podcast Hidden Brain. Thanks, Shankar.
Thanks so much.
Here's a trend. Cities.
Okay, what broadly are they trying to find out? What question are they trying to answer? Yeah, does minimum wage, does an increase in minimum wage affect health code violations or restaurant hygiene? Okay, so what are our variables in that study? What is our predictor variable, you know, yeah, Avalon, minimum wage. And we just said that's our predictor. Independent variable, if you like that language. Did you get a sense from how they talked about it, at what level they were measuring it? If they measured it as, yeah, go ahead, Grace.
Oh no, I was just thinking of like whenever they measured the like hygiene, it was in the routine like checks, but I don't think that could be applicable to the wage. I think that would just be counted on.
Hold that thought though, because you're on to something, so I'm gonna come back to it. Okay, so minimum wage, so they said if it was $8 an hour, if it was 9, 10, 11, 12, what level does that sound like? Probably. If they just ask, what's the minimum wage? Heard some ordinal. Anybody want to have another guess? Or maybe I didn't hear that correctly. Okay, let's look at this. So there's two possible ways. At least two possible ways they could have asked this question. Okay. what is the minimum wage? Okay, probably just fill in the blank. And then they could maybe do it like this, less than $8. 801 to 10. Above 10, okay. If they did it the second way where they put things in groups, what level of measurement is this? So remember, let's take a step back. So categories, we can't tell the difference in amount at all. They're just different categories. They're nominal, okay? I'll come back to you, Q. Ordinal, we know the order things are in, but we don't know the distance between them. And interval, we know the distance between them. What are you gonna add? You,
I'm just gonna say what it is,
okay, what is it?
ordinal.
Ordinal, yep. Grace, did you have something else or were you just answering? Okay. Okay, so if they just give me a number, so one person might say 825, one person might say 15, one person might say 1250. What is this?
Ratio?
Okay, ratio, yeah, or it is technically ratio. I usually cheat and say interval, because we treat them the same, so I just try not to confuse you. Interval or ratio or scale, I'd accept any of those. Okay. I think they're probably doing it at this level. All right,
Doing it at interval?
interval, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so. I mean, it's really not ratio, because well, minimum wage be 0, I don't know. This is where it gets confusing. All right, and then so what's the outcome variable? It's obvious as you think it is, someone just needs to say it.
Hygiene standards.
Hygiene, yep. How do they operationalize? So how do they measure hygienes? Grace? Yeah, the number of violations.
Like red, they called them red risk factors. but
Yep.
I don't think
Yeah, but you're right, there's red
that's-
and
also
blue.
Yeah.
Okay, red are serious violations, blue is less serious violations. Or outcome variable, okay, if it's number of violations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay, what level is that? Interval? If it's type of violation, red or blue, what level is that? Just the category nominal, yep. Okay. They actually mentioned 2 other variables in here, did anybody catch them? Grace on a roll today.
One of them was like more tasks.
More tasks, yep,
So maybe,
or number of
and I
tasks.
think the other one was the business's higher costs, mean that they cut internal costs.
Yep. Okay, I stand corrected. There are 4 other variables they mentioned there because I didn't even think of those 2, but that's correct. Anybody catch anything else? What else could be affecting the health violations? Summer?
Was one the number of hours that they were working?
Yep. Actually, I keep adding to the list. There's still 2 more. All right, Grace, on a roll, go for it.
They said that because of the violations, they would have more people come and check, like the number of inspections.
We keep adding to my list, but yeah. There's still 2 more. Ironically, the 2 originally that I thought of. All these are great.
Can we get a hint?
Huh?
Can we get a hint?
Who's, yeah, one's related to the number of hours. So they talked about not hours, but number of employees. Yep. The other one is about how the employees feel about their job, morale.
Mhm.
Talking about employee morale. Okay. I'm gonna come back to those in a second. So what in general did they find? Does minimum wage impact hygiene? Yes or no? I set you up because I told you this is the time of semester you're dragging, so this is self-fulfilling prophecy. As minimum wage increases, number of health violations also increases, which is a positive correlation. Okay, positive correlation. So as minimum wage increases, health violations increase, specifically the blue ones. The red ones did not seem to. Okay, so positive increase. So therefore, from a manager, I should tell people, do not vote for increased minimum wage because health violations are going to increase, right? Maybe you probably work in the service industry, you're like, hell no. Don't do that. Okay. So they suggested there's some other things going on here. Okay, we got a good list, much better than my list. Okay. If we don't include these, if we're not looking at them, we call these, my favorite word, nuisance variables. They're a pain in the rear because they're affecting our outcome, but we don't know how. Sometimes we'll call them confounds. They're confusing us because they're affecting our outcomes. We could actually, and this gets a little complicated, but so we want to know minimum wage impacts number of health violations. Okay, that's our basic question. Okay. So one of the nuisance variables, if we measured it, was number of staff. We call this a moderator. Our moderators is what I call, or I refer to the like, it depends variable. So the relationship between minimum wage and health violation depends on if you cut staff or not. So if they're not cutting staff, if they keep their same staff, this relationship probably goes away. If they cut their staff, then this happens. Okay, so it's moderating. It depends on the relationship between minimum wage and health violations depends on the number of staff. Okay. So that's moderation. That's a pretty advanced concept, but it's a little bit interesting to think about as you think about management recommendations, and things are not always as simple as they seem. And also, what's the quote about liars use statistics or something? Like you can always, I can make an argument, right, that I should not produce minimum wage because it's going to hurt our health. But maybe there's something else going on there. Maybe there's something else. Okay, let's do maybe one more of these. This one's yeah. All right. So examining the links between academic performance and food stamps.
Support for NPR and the following message come from Organic Valley, a co-op of small organic family farms. Dairy farmer Tyler Webb sees himself as a conductor, managing the orchestra of his farm's ecosystem. Click the play button below to visit Stony Pond Farm and hear how he and his family work in harmony with the natural environment to care for the land.
Poor families who rely on food stamps often find themselves caught in a familiar cycle. In the days after they receive the benefit each month, there's plenty of food on the table, but as the weeks tick away, food becomes scarce. Here with some new research on the consequences of this monthly cycle is NPR social science correspondent Shankar Vedantam. Good morning.
Hi, Mary Louise.
Hi. This new research, I gather it focuses on the link between food stamps and academic performance. How so?
That's right. This work comes from Orgul Ozturk. She's an economist at the University of South Carolina. Along with her colleagues Chad Coddy and John Gardenier, they find that children who come from families that are several weeks removed from receiving their food stamp benefits perform worse on an important math exam.
We find that when the test date happens to be very far away from the receipt day, students score much lower, significantly lower on the mathematics test.
Seems like it kind of makes sense that if you're hungry, you can't concentrate, so you might test lower. How do they know, though, that this is the food stamp cycle, that that's what's responsible?
Well, it has to do with two quirks in the way the food stamp program is administered in South Carolina. Recipients receive benefits on the first 10 days of the month. Some families get it on the first, some on the second, and so on. Simultaneously, children in grades 3 through 8 also have to take an annual math exam on the second Wednesday of May. Now, the second Wednesday of May falls on different dates each year. So if your family received food stamps on the 10th of April, for example, and the exam falls on the 8th of May, you're likely to have gone hungry for several days before you took the test.
And to be clear, people don't all get their food stamps on the same day. It's
Precisely.
staggered around the month. Okay.
Exactly. Now, on the other hand, if your family received food stamps on the 2nd of May and the test is on the 8th of May, you've probably eaten well in the days before the test. The researchers not only compare kids who've eaten well to kids who are hungry, they also compare the math performance of kids who've eaten poorly to their own math performance in another year when they've eaten well. Osler told me that while her study measures the effect of being hungry on one math test, this is a monthly cycle, meaning that the real effects are likely to be much larger.
It's happening to these kids every month. Over the course of 9 months, it adds up. What we are measuring is a reduction in performance that month, but they are hungry every single month. The cumulative effect is very significant.
Shankar, can researchers control whether this is in fact food? It seems like they're clear on the link to food stamps, but if food stamps are running out, maybe the parents are stressed, they're stressed in the household, and that's what kids are reacting to.
That's a fair point, Mary Louise. We know that there's a relationship between food stamps and math performance. We don't know specifically if it's about food or just because the family as a whole is stressed and the kids in some ways are reacting to that stress.
So what's the implication here? Might it be better to, say, distribute food stamps more frequently?
So that's an idea that some people are thinking about, and it's an intriguing idea. If you can distribute the benefit twice a month, perhaps you can smooth out this cycle. But it's the kind of thing that needs to be tested because you could have unintended consequences. And now instead of students being hungry once a month, they're going to end up being hungry twice a month.
Which is probably not the direction that you would want to go.
Precisely.
That's Edvir Shankar Vedantam. Shankar, thank you.
Thank you, Mary Louise.
He joins us regularly to talk about social science research. You can follow him.
Okay, so this is about food stamps and academic performance. So academic performance is measured by a math test. So I'm gonna have you talk to each other, but here's what I want you to talk about. So what is your predictor variable? I'll give you a hint. It's not just food stamps, it's something about food stamps. And really to take that another level, they're really another construct. Where outcome is academic performance. And then what's this whole thing about stress? What do they mean by that? So take 30 seconds, talk to each other, and then we'll come back. Go.
Obviously. And then control.
So the kids are really hungry doing that test. Let's start.
All right, talk to me. What is it about food stamps they're actually measuring, Grace?
The date of when you get them.
Yes, think of
Like
it. It's
the
really,
correlation between the date of the stamps and the test.
yeah, right. So yes, so it's the number of days, right? So it's the number of days from food stamps. Okay, and they want to know if that impacts scores on a math exam. Okay. They find out, and they don't tell us the number, so I'm gonna make one up based on what they conclude. They find out that the correlation between them is negative 0.42, negative 0.42. Okay, take 30 seconds, tell a friend what that means. Go.
So, what is it? Yeah, so I gotta look at what. Yeah. When the loss amount.
Significant.
Dave.
Definitely is. It's
More days between.
The more days. Yes, the more days of, yeah, there's more like.
So one's going with one.
almost.
Yeah, that's what it is.
All right. I'm sure if you're going today, vote near line of sight, odd or even? Odd. It is even, your row. Okay, I'll help you out here. As the number of days from food stamps to test increases, test scores. Decrease. Yep. Okay. As the number of days from food stamps to test decreases, test scores. Increase, yep. Negative correlations are enemies, they're repulsed by each other, they always go in opposite directions. Good. Okay. What's this thing about stress? What are they talking about? Okay, so stress here would be a nuisance variable because they don't measure it, or confound because it confuses us. Family stress in particular, okay? Does anybody catch what they said about family stress? And they asked the host, and he's like, we don't actually know. Let me catch it. So they asked, is it actually, let me take a step back. It's not really, it is the days for both food stamps. What do they really want to know here? It's not how many days, it's, is the kid hungry? That's really what they're measuring. So they asked the host or the interviewer, is this really about hunger? Or is this about the family being stressed because they're hungry? Because clearly they're lower income, so they're struggling to pay the bills or all these things. So is it hunger or is it stress? So it could be, we could create a model that's like this, where it's both of those things, okay? Both of those things impact financial performance. The model might look like this, okay? So this is moderation, or it depends. So it's not necessarily hunger. Hunger predicts academic performance if the family is stressed about it. If the family is not stressed about it, it actually has no relationship. Okay, so that's moderation. And I'm gonna give you one more, which can be, okay, just gonna call it hunger. Creates stress, which then decreases academic performance. So it's this chain of events. This is probably happening to you. We can call this a mediator. It's in the middle. Okay, it's in the middle of that relationship. What I want you to know I want you to understand the basic relationship. I want you to understand, if I tell you what the correlation is, how to interpret that, okay? Moderator might show up on an exam, but if it does, it's extra credit. This is a really, moderator, we're definitely into grad school territory here, but I like to introduce it because I think it's a concept you can grasp. Like, it depends on something else, like academic performance. Our hunger academic performance depends on if the family is stressed or not. Okay. Minimum wage to health violation depends on if they're cutting staff or not. Okay. So that one I think you can grasp. Mediator I think is super tough, but yeah.
I was gonna ask about the difference between the two.
Yeah, between moderator and mediator. So moderator, the relationship between these two things depends on a third thing, okay? So we might say, if the family is stressed, then hunger predicts academic performance. If the family is not stressed, then hunger does not predict academic performance. Okay. In mediation, we say hunger creates stress, stress impacts academic mediation. It's a chain. So if your brain is like, please stop, I'm going to, and don't worry about it. If you're like, that's kind of interesting, then maybe grad school's for you. All right. You're like, you told us today was gonna be easier. You lied. Okay, now we're gonna dial it down. So miscellaneous. A survey, actually, this has been a couple years, but I'm going to Orlando next week, not Disney. But a couple years ago, I was at a conference. We stayed at a Disney resort, and they sent us the survey. Which there's some good things and bad things, but we haven't looked at surveys in a while. So I thought we might look at this. So here was the intro. So nice intro. We thank you, right? We appreciate you. If I were to quibble with this just a little bit, and it's hard to see here, but this font size is different, which makes it look a little unprofessional. Which of the following best describes the main reason for your trip to Central Florida? What do you think about this? There's not a right or wrong answer. I'm just curious what you think. Is this a good survey question? Why not, Kayla? Yeah, I agree. There's too much going on here. Okay, if I'm a reader, I'm just like, screw it.
And like, I feel like I would put everything into like a section, like celebrate wedding, vow renewal, honeymoon, and then special occasion could all be in.
Yeah,
like-
exactly. There's
Go
so
with
much
special
overlap
occasion,
here. A
like-
few people are there for one thing.
Yeah. Business trip, conference can be together too.
Yeah, in fact, business trip. So for
That's
me,
what
I
you
was
think.
at a conference, which was a business trip. So which do I pick?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, please write your overall experience at the resort. Okay, this is fine. Okay, the value you paid for was, and then it wants you to say, this isn't obvious what's wrong with this, but I don't want to tell them. Right?
Yeah.
So I tried to skip it and it wouldn't let me. Please select an answer. Okay, so as a user, when that happens, what am I likely to do? So I'm gonna say stop. I'm gonna exit, screw your survey. I'm not gonna fill it out anymore. And then you're stuck without data. Okay, so rarely do you want to make an answer required because you're just gonna lose people. You're just gonna lose people. Unless you're like, this is the number one reason I want you to fill out the survey. If I don't have this information, the rest is useless, then make it required. But otherwise, leave it optional. Okay. And please rate your food and beverage experience.
Wow.
Again, we have a really long list. Okay. So this is general. Where was I getting at? Okay, so a couple issues here. First of all, what if I went to multiple of these and one was good and one was crappy?
Mhm.
Okay. The other issue is, how many of you been to Disney? I have no earthly idea where I ate. I don't know. It's the place I passed. And we sit down and we had a meal. I don't know where I was. I was at Disney, right? So I don't think that was helpful. I mean, this question is okay, but too much going on here. And it's a sense doubled or however many this is barreled because I could have had a different experience at different places. Overall experience with staff in each of the following areas. Again, I think it's a little too busy. I also think some of this is just silly. How many guests interacted with maintenance and engineering? Why are you asking that? Like the odds of that, you're just, again, you're just annoying your user. You're just annoying your user. Age, that's fine as long as you allow me to skip it. Gender, I think we talked about this one other time. Regardless of your beliefs on this subject, no one's an other.
Wait a minute,
Yeah.
are they check boxes for,
Yeah.
so you can click more than one?
Indicate one or more for gender, yeah, okay. Yeah, which is a little unusual, but yeah, human beings are not other. It's like calling someone an it, so, if you feel strongly that it's man, woman, then put man, woman, but don't put other. And we're all still trying to figure this out, but most frequently I see, male, female prefer to self-describe, and then you give a box for people to fill in. The reality is, and I think I talked about this one other time, but giving a third or fourth or fifth option here is as much about messaging, like you're sending a message to your user about what type of organization you are and the things you value. The data, because we get so few people in those, I want to say other categories, in those non-binary categories, that it's not really helpful to analyze, but you're sending a message about the type of organization you are. Okay, but human beings aren't other. I like this a lot. So in the middle, they say, thank you. Okay. And then it's like, we want to ask you some more questions. Is that okay? Sure. No, thanks. But it's a nice little touch in. And actually, this made me feel like, okay, yeah, I'll keep going. And the following happen. Again, these are just too long. People are not, as much as I like to think there, people are not reading your surveys at this level of detail. Okay. And also, this is very wrapped up in Disney jargon. Like Disney has their own language, right? I experienced an unexpected wow at Disney's Yacht Club Resort. What the hell is that? Like, I just don't know what that means. And is that a good thing? I guess so, but I could have been like, wow, that's awful. Here again, like, don't make me answer.
The temperature of the thing.
Don't make me answer.
How come they only like the color for this one and then the other one, they're like no color at all?
You're talking about this color?
Yeah, the color.
It turned red because I didn't answer and it didn't like it. Okay. Temperature of the food. Yeah. Okay. That's that. I thought better of Disney. Disney has their act together on a lot of things, so clearly they need more people who took this class to do better surveys, because that was really not very good. That's Disney. Parks and Rec folks, City of Phoenix is doing Parks and Recreation master planning. And so there's a community survey, but if you live in Phoenix, I recommend it. Make your voice be heard. But their survey sucks. Like you need to hire our students. Okay. All right, let's talk about presenting information visually for the rest of class time. So when we present any research paper or evaluation report, most of the time we use the same general structure, and we generally abbreviate it. You'll hear us call it I'm rad. Okay. I'm rad. So introduction, methods, results. And we need to make it work. And discussion. I'm rad. Okay. So the introduction is why you're doing this. Okay. Why does this research, why does this evaluation matter? So you will have an introduction on your final project. It'll be no more than a page, like 2 paragraphs. Okay. A literature review you will not do in this class for your project, but it's really what's everything we already know about this topic. Method, so that was your app 2, which we did third. how did you collect data? Okay, results, what did you find out? Okay, so like at 4, that was your spreadsheet, that's your results. Okay. Discussion, so what? What does this all mean? Who cares? Okay, who cares? What does this mean? What do we do with it? So in your final paper, your discussion will also include your management recommendations. Okay, so based on these data, what would you recommend? Everything's through that structure. So within our paper, usually in the results section, we're gonna have some visual information. Some kind of fun facts about visuals, why we just don't put a bunch of text. We process visuals 60,000 times faster than we process text. 60,000 times, okay. 50% of our brain dedicating to processing visuals. 70% of our sensory it's a hard word to say. Perceptors are in our eyes. This is super depressing for a professor. We remember 10% of what we hear, 20% of what we read, 80% of what we see. So the next time a professor gives you grief, like, I told you in class, you're just like, it's not my fault. I can only remember 10% of what I hear. Not my fault. So that's why we do it. When we think about presenting information, it is more than graphs and pictures. It's tables, it's headers, it's how we organize things. So think about the whole visual presentation. So in your project, it's not a PowerPoint presentation, but you'll do things like bullet points, list. Okay? It's not heavy on text. So again, so a header, by the way, the APA, and I know sometimes you all get sick of, some professors are big on it, some are not, but like APA format. Okay? But if you look up like APA header format, it's actually really useful when you just think about how you organize your data. Okay? But so visualization, more than just pictures, clear headers helps your reader. Tables are good to help reader digest lots of numbers. Okay. Tables are good for lots of numbers. So here's a table. Okay, and this was a study where we looked at, it was the Youth Basketball League. We looked at the discrepancy in their score, basically the win-loss score, and then we looked at some behaviors. So N is how many people were in the survey, M, mean or average, and standard deviation. Okay, so this helps us see the numbers a little bit better, but this is not a very good table. Anything you see here that you don't like? Anything rub you the wrong way about this? Oops, okay. Apparently I don't show you. 4 decimals, 5 decimals, 5 decimals, 3 decimals, 2 decimals.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah, so it's not consistent. And in general, never more than 2 decimals. Because after that, our brain just like, that's too much. Right? So in general, never more than 2 decimals. But always be consistent. This is a correlation table. Okay, so we've learned correlations recently. So this was a study I did with the local high school. We looked at their sense of community, grit. You guys know what grit is? Passion and perseverance toward long-term goals is the technical definition, but you know what grit is, right? It's like, it's grinding things out, okay? Social support, positive behavior, and empathy. Okay? So you've got the variables here, and you've got them across here. Okay? The way you read this is you just match them. So the correlation between social support and sense of community is 0.44. between empathy and sense of community is 0.37. Okay, between social support and grit is 0.29, right? So you're just matching it up. Okay. The ones are perfect correlations. Why are they perfect correlations? Because the correlation between sense community and sense community is remarkably perfect because they're the same thing. Any guesses why all this is blank? It's the same, it would be just a mirror of this. It would be the same data. So if we showed it, it's just gonna get unnecessarily cluttered, right? Because so I've got grit and sense community here, right? So I could go grit and sense community here, so that one's blank. That would be the same number, so there's no need to repeat it.
Why do you put the 1? If it's
Really, it's just a visual indicator. Yeah. I actually prefer to just black these out. Okay, but you all know these are all positives. They're positive correlations, best friends. They always go in the same direction. Okay, so as grit increases, sense community increases. As grit decreases, sense community decreases. As sense community increases, grit decreases. Okay, so you know how to read that. Your project is going to have a correlation table, a fairly big one, because you've got a lot of variables to correlate. Here's another way to do that. So in this case, what I did, so let me back up here. You don't know what the predictor and outcome variables are. Okay, and you can make an argument for what they are, but here, because I knew, I took my, I don't remember the study very well. All these were my predictor out variables, and I put my outcome variables here. So it was just another way. It's same data. Actually, it's not the same data, but the same idea. Which would probably have made this 2 decimals. So that's a correlation table. You will have those in your project. Okay. Graphs. So pie graphs. Pie graphs are used to show percentages, percent of the whole. Pie graphs are never, ever, 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 never, ever used to show mean scores or average scores. Should always be percent of the whole. So if you look at a pie graph, every time whatever the numbers are should add up to 100%. Okay, if you go, those do not add up for 100%, that is not correct. This is a good way to show mean scores. So average sense community, average grit, average social support, positive behavior, empathy. There is an issue with this graph, and you wouldn't necessarily know it from the graph, but I also think that's a good point because always question what you see. Okay. So if, okay, I were to ask you from looking at this graph, which of these variables has the highest score? Sense community, grit, social support, positive behavior, or empathy, which has the highest score? Sense community, right? Seems pretty obvious. But the truth is sense community here is measured on a 6-point scale from 1 to 6. The other ones are all 1 to 5. That interpretation is different, right? 4 out of 6 is not the same as 4 out of 5. Okay. So when you see something, double check what the measurement is. Double check they're not trying to play a trick on you. Keep items with the same scale together, okay? If all these are on a 5-point scale, you can leave them together. If this is on a 6-point scale, it should be by itself. I think I've taken this off the exam, but for a while there was an exam question where I would show this, I would give you the measurement scales, and I would say, what's wrong with this? Inevitably, people would say, grit and social support are different things or something. I'm like, no, keep the scales together, same scales together. Okay. Just quick glance. So we measured positive sports person behavior by sport. Quick glance, who has the best behavior?
Cheer.
Cheer. By a lot or a little? A little. Quick glance, who has the best behavior? Cheer by a lot or a little? A lot, same data. It's the same data. So here, the left axis goes from 0 to 5, so they look close together. Here I've squeezed it to 3.5 to 4, so they look like a bigger difference. Look like a bigger difference. So again, pay attention to the data people are giving you, pay attention to the scale, pay attention to how it's measured. Okay. And if you're writing the report, add the data labels, so add the number on here. Okay, so at least that's a little bit of honesty. Pay attention to that scale. We don't do qualitative data. Infographic. So infographics are visual representations of data in a creative way. So things like this, okay? Popular models of evaluation, data sources, here's a bar chart. We've got some figures here. This is from the Women's Sports Foundation. So after participating in a sport life skills program, 9 out of 10 girls say they're a leader. So we've got an image of 10 girl athletes here, and you see 9 of them are a different color. Okay. 70% know where to get money to start a business, and it's got someone holding a dollar sign. Okay. 8 out of 10 know how to prevent pregnancy, compared to only 3 out of 10 before, and you've got this visual here. So again, it's just a more creative, interesting way to display data. Go back to that. For right or wrong, I find people currently in the industry, particularly people who are older, don't know how to do this, but they assume you do. They assume you're young and you know how to do this. So learn to do these. It's a nice skill to have and one you're going to get asked to do. Okay. The nice thing is there used to be bunches of tools. Now we've kind of settled on one. Just learn Canva. Just learn Canva. Okay. It'll help you. It's often something you'll be asked to do. All right, let's have a little bit of fun. All right, I'm gonna give you some really random statistics. All true, but really random. Okay, you're gonna pick 3 of them. I'm gonna put you in groups. Okay, you're gonna pick 3 of them, and you're gonna decide how to visualize them. This is a have fun with it, take a brain break moment, not like stress about what's perfect. Okay. So you have a couple of options. If you're boring and okay with me giving you crap, you can like do a graph on the computer. If you're boring and okay for me giving you flack for it. Okay. You can create an infographic. In which case, what I'm going to encourage us to do is instead of doing it on the computer, just come draw it. Okay. That's the option most people do. Your third option, which in the whatever, how many ever years I've been teaching this class, one group is taking me up on, maybe you'll be the second, you can perform it. Okay, so you can do it on computer. I will harass you for being boring. You can come draw it, okay, or you can perform it. Okay, so I'm going to put you in groups to do this, and then I'll show you random statistics. All right, here's what I want you to do. Think of your birthday, not your year, just the day and month. Everybody got your birthday in the head? Okay, shouldn't take you long to think of that. So I want you to get in order by your birthday. Again, not year, just day and month. You may not talk to each other. Okay, so you have to communicate without audibly speaking. Okay, so probably gonna require standing up. Get in order by your birthday, go. Yep.
Okay, well.
Oh, I didn't- I was like, I thought you were making a triangle. 20 seconds. No, I saw you mouthing that.
Oh.
Gotcha. Shows the other end. You were January. I think because you're close to me. All right, are we good? All right, no, Colton's like, no.
Like, we basically made two groups. I'm seeing like marches over here
All right,
as well.
this is gonna be interesting. All right, then we're gonna go through like, so real quick, what is it?
January 27th.
February 1st.
March 27th.
Oh, January 29th. But okay, March 27th, so February, March 27th,
April 3rd,
April 3rd.
April 10th, May 4th,
May 11th. May 24th.
May 9th.
June 23rd, June 27th, July 11th, July 12th, July 22nd, August 3rd,
August 7th, August 20th, September 7th,
September 17th.
September 17th, that should not be.
November 24th.
You had such little faith in your classmates. All right, it's always interesting to me to just kind of see the dynamic of how that works. Like, like who kind of takes leadership? You guys are much more organic. Frequently, there's one person who's like, all right, here's what we're doing. Also to see how many phones come out. So I only saw 2 phones. Usually like there's 2 people who are like, which is fine. I'll tell you. All right, I'm gonna put you in groups of 4 or 5. Okay. In your group, take a couple minutes to decide what you're going to do. Okay. You're gonna pick 3 of these facts. So summer on Uranus lasts 21 years. Okay. More than 10% of the world's salt is used to de-ice American roads. More than 50% of Americans fall asleep on their sides. Whatever 3 you want, they don't have to be related. Okay. Decide how you're going to visualize them. Okay. If you would like to draw it, there are several color markers up here. We have a whole board there and a couple spaces here. You're welcome to do that. Okay. If you would like to perform it, just plan that out and we'll wait for that moment. If you are boring, you may use your computer. Okay. Before you start, take 60 seconds. Good luck, Savannah. Take 60 seconds and tell a quick, happy story about your birthday. All right. Group 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. Okay. So tell a quick happy story of that. Okay. Quick happy story about your birthday, fun memory about your birthday, and then plan out your visuals.
What's everyone's favorite? I'm excited for my birthday this year. Family. I'm gonna match. Yeah.
Really?
That's really cool.
Big old jumping slides.
We threw easy to
Fall.
I've seen that one. You can do that one yesterday. I think I don't wanna actually do. Okay. We should do a draw.
Okay.
So that's one.
Okay, which three do you want to do?
And do you put like something
Wait, do they have to go together?
Now, I could look trying to make these connect.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, cause I'm like.
I mean, if you can.
And I want to see the draft tables. There's okay, and then maybe the outside like go to all the west.
You wanna act
Yeah.
And I don't wanna be mocked for doing it on computer.
Right. I think you ran out of time. Yeah, that sounds pretty. Yeah, I sleep on my side tomorrow night.
Wow.
That's fine, okay. Okay, yeah. We could, yeah, that one, maybe it's like two. Maybe like something. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, where's?
It's the.
Yeah.
Oh, it's supposed to like.
Okay.
So you're just gonna let us draw.
Like that's the ease.
Markers are there.
Just.
Yeah, just find space wherever you want.
And then we need to.
Okay. Let's start with Sorry, I'm sorry, guys.
it's all just making my people interpret the chaos and I agree.
Oh. You could do.
Yeah.
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 Let's just go. I can't.
Oh, God.
No, literally.
Okay. I don't know what it doesn't even matter. Not that good, but. Like.
Shade one side.
Maybe Yeah. Should we not cut it? I'm like thinking like a necklace with an interview or like a what else? A ring. A ring. We could do a ring.
Oh, yeah,
Like
like
a little
when people get into
diamond.
fights.
I was thinking if
and,
you
like,
do
their
a really
nails
yeah,
or just
do like a broken.
I mean, not their nails.
And then
but,
a ring or something. Yeah. Very cool.
And then like.
You can do like red.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then like draw like a face with it.
Okay.
What's the? That looks like a tomato, just draw some.
Yeah, just draw a little.
Coming out of it. Oh, sleep on their side.
Just because really extensions.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, they can.
Yeah.
So I kind of look like floor, so.
Yeah,
like
no,
a
yeah,
pizza
it
dough.
does.
And then I get like a pizza on me, but.
Draw.
I see that, I see the adjustment, how many was it? Years.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
About like a year.
I kind of just did that out.
Yeah.
We do.
Alright.
Next one, 50% of Americans fall asleep on
somebody
both
like-
sides. Somebody else do.
Should we do like 1 year at the top or?
Straw
Oh, and the tutor.
Yeah.
Put intern at the 1 year at the top.
Someone else. Are we allowed to write?
I don't even know how to write. Graphics still have it, so they just like.
Just like it's a statistic.
Yeah, we learned.
Maybe glass print?
Where the salt.
You'll have to do it.
Oh, I. Yeah. Does anybody know?
Draw like the gallon, you know, like the big blue gallon, draw that.
No. Here. $1,000 gallons of water. So water. My team was way better. Oh my gosh. Of American policy on their side. That's what's next.
Yeah, that works.
That was great. Did I do that? Okay.
It's like a seesaw.
And then he do it on the window.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, but you do want your own car. Cause I'm like, and then it's just right.
On stuff and I'm like choking.
Take one more minute, folks, to finish the one you're on. If you don't get 3, that's fine.
There's another one right there. I could do 30, okay, gallons of water. Little, oh. 1,000. Okay, water bottle. How does one draw a water bottle?
Random food.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, 2 miles per hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could draw.
I have the draw.
Okay. I love it.
Go ahead and finish the one you're on and then return to your seats.
39,000.
Artists on theirs.
I know.
There's that.
Yes.
The jewelry one.
Wait, what? Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. No performance this year? I'm pretty sure I filmed that. All right, so we've got around 39,000 gallons of water, falling asleep on their side. What do we got on here?
So she's in the splits for some reason, eating all her food, and then she's got her little kitchen table with her memory of how much food she's eating.
Okay. By the way, this is my art skill, so I appreciate it.
That's my art skills.
Yeah. Club Uranus. I'm not sure what that has to do with. Oh, 21. We got something about Phoenix and salt too. What's the 101? What's the 101 here? Oh, that's 10%. That's not 101. All right, 50% falling asleep on their side. Water again, falling asleep on their side. A scale here for food. Someone's got the visual of going around Uranus there. Pillar-related injuries in the ER. This has to do with their dog bone? What's the dog bone? What's going on? Oh, broken bone. Okay, sorry. Ice or salt or something going on there. Oh, I like the injured by jewelry. I like that the ring is the one bleeding here.
Someone didn't take off their ring before swinging.
Oh, it has the blood. I forgot what this one was, but. Oh, glass breaking, 3,000 ounces. Great, all right. You all passed, great. I'll show you that. I was gonna show you some examples of evaluation projects I've done real world. But we're about out of time. So here's what's coming up. Thursday. Thursday is gonna be, in some ways very traditional because it's gonna be a lecture class. In some ways a bit different because it's gonna be a little bit of a different topic. So on Thursday, we're gonna talk about the whole publication process, so how research gets published, which might be of mild interest to you, but what I think will be of interest to you, which is why I keep doing this, is we're gonna talk about the whole role of the university in this, okay? What's a university have to do with research? What are different types of universities? What are different types of faculty? So, and why there are different types of faculty. So like how what I do might be different than what Aaron does, and that whole world. So that's what we're gonna do on Thursday. We're gonna have a couple of guests who are gonna come, who want to hear that lecture as well. We're gonna talk about the difference between like an undergrad degree and master's degree and a PhD degree and that whole process. So I think it's interesting. In the past, people have thought it's interesting, which is why I keep doing it. But it's a bit of a little tangent. It's relevant, but a bit of a tangent. So that's Thursday. Next week, I'll put this on Canvas. Next week, not Thursday. Thursday will be in class. Okay. Next week, no in-person class. Okay. I'm going to be, first part of the week, I'm going to be at North Carolina State University. I'm evaluating their program. So myself and one other will spend 3 days there, reviewing and giving them an evaluation of their program that's like ours. And then I fly to Orlando for US tennis meetings the rest of the week. So I will not be here. I thought Kaylee was going to make it, but it got complicated. So what will happen next week? You'll have time to do your App 5, which we'll talk about on Thursday, but you have the skills to do it. It's looking at data and making recommendations. Fairly short, but requires some thinking. And App 6 is going to be looking up articles in the library, skimming those and answering some questions about them. I'll have a nice little video to kind of walk you through that. Not quite the same as the other one that's click here, click there, but it'll walk you through that. So next week you'll have time to hopefully knock out those 2 apps. But Thursday, we and a couple guests will be here as normal. Any questions? Anything you're wondering about? Anything I've forgotten to tell you? Making progress, folks. Good job. I'll see you on Thursday.
Oh, on Thursday.
So I'm gonna see, he said he was gonna think about get rid of the Zoom, but. Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
Me neither.
My friend's still here, so I'm like,
Yeah, I was looking
there's
for
some,
you. I was
like I didn't go to Nick today, I'm not going to Nick on Thursday, like, there's some that I just can't go to.
I won't be late.
That's hard to like, everyone's off, so I'm like.
But he